All right, we are in lesson number 1 of algebra this year. As I mentioned in class, I'll mention on the video here, every lesson that we do throughout the year is going to be cumulative, which means that what we learn today, we're going to use tomorrow, and we'll use the next day, and the next day, and all the way through. Not only will we use it, but there will be problems taken from that lesson and put on pretty much every homework assignment that we'll have throughout the year. So what we learned today is going to be important, and you need to be able to hang on to it. Um, the first 3 or 4 lessons that we're going to have this year are going to feel like your old algebra textbook, where you have 20 to 30 of those type of problems to work on, and then you go on to the next assignment. But once we get to about the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, then this way of doing algebra is going to feel a little bit different. And I think as designed, I think it's going to help you out in the long run. It's going to help you remember and retain the concepts from day to day, and hopefully be able to retain them for tests, retain them for standardized tests like the ACT, and also for future classes. So hopefully in the long run, this is going to help you out. We're also going to spend a lot of time on working through fractions. We're not going to do it all at once. We're going to start out with little pieces of fractions. And I think at the beginning you're going to find out the fractions are actually pretty easy to work with. And as we build along, I think you're going to be okay with it. So we're going to do several things on the first day here. And the first one that we're going to work through is just basically something called operations. In algebra, there are a number of different things that we can do. You can think of operations as things that you can do. And one of those things that we can do in algebra, and you should know, or at least be familiar with these, we can add things together, we could subtract 2 things, we can multiply 2 things, and then we can also divide 2 things. And for now, those are the 4 operations in algebra that we're concerned about, being able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And we're going to put those together this year, and especially in this lesson. With that in mind, there's a couple other things that we need to be aware of. There are 3 other ways that we can group things together in algebra. One is called a parenthesis, one is called a bracket, and one is called a brace. So this guy's a parenthesis, this is a bracket, and this is going to be a brace. It's not too important that you, I think it's B-R-A-C. It's not too important that you be able to necessarily know the names of them, but it will be helpful. But they all have the same meaning, and they simply mean, they simply group things together in the same way, and when they're put next to one another, it means multiply. But they have the same meaning, so don't let those throw you off too much. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and do a couple things and kind of get you rolling. So when we talk about operations, and there are 4 of them, there's an order in which we do them. And if we mix in the brackets and the parentheses and the braces together, we get something called what I call PEMDAS. And some of you have probably used this acronym before, P-E-M-DAS. So here's parentheses. P stands for parentheses, E stands for exponents, M stands for multiplication, D stands for divide, A is add, and S is subtraction. Now I'm going to do a couple different things. I'm going to kind of put these in order. And I'm going to cross out exponents. For right now, exponents, you don't have to worry about them. We'll pick up exponents a little later on this year. But those of it that have worked with exponents before know how to deal with them, great. But for those of us that are still kind of picking this up, just ignore them. They're not, matter of fact, they're not even going to be in the problems for quite a while. So don't even worry about exponents. All we're worried about is being able to know that we do everything inside parentheses first. Then we do multiplication division. Now, just a heads up, it can be divide and then multiply. So actually you multiply and divide in the order that they're given. I'll show you what that means in just a moment. And then same thing with add and subtract. You can actually subtract before you add, but that's why I circled these together. So the first thing we do is parentheses, do everything inside the parentheses. Then you multiply and divide in the order they're given. Could be divide then multiply. And then the last thing you do is you add up anything together, and or subtract. Subtract anything together. So let's do a couple of quick examples just to kind of give you a feel for them. And I'm going to kind of work up the way. So I'm going to start down here, and we'll start with just adding and subtracting things together, and then we'll throw in some multiplication. So in terms of adding and subtracting, let's just do a couple. So let's do 10 minus 5 plus 2. Notice that we're gonna move from left to right. So the two things that we have are 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5 is going to be 5. Now, here's what you got to do. You have to be able to bring down everything that you didn't use. Well, we used the 10 and a 5 to get 5. So those two are used up, you could say. They were eaten to become 5. These two are still left on the plate. They're still out there, and you have to bring those down. I know some of you can probably do this in your head, and that's great, but right now it's really important that you show all the steps. And I will expect, and I'll check to make sure that you show the steps on the problems in the homework. All right, and then you can add those together, and that gives you 7, and then you're boxing the answers. So on these particular problems, you're going to have, let me zoom in just a little bit here. You're going to have 3 steps. You're going to have 1, 2, 3. You're going to have to rewrite the original problem, do a sub-step, and then show the final step. And there's your number 7. Let's do a couple others just to give you a little practice. Let's do 15 plus 6 minus 2. Now notice on this one, notice that we actually subtracted before we added. Even though on PEMDAS we list add before subtract. Remember that this is done in the order that it's given in the problem, so we always go left to right on this. So if we go over here, in this case, we have adding first and then subtracting. On this one we had subtract and then add. So let's add these two together first. So 5 plus 6 is 11. Notice that we used these two to get the 11. We didn't use the negative in the 2, so we're just going to simply bring that down. All right, and then the last part is going to be 11 minus 2. 11 minus 2 is going to be 9, and then box it in. Okay, let's do a couple that are a little more on the difficult side. We'll throw in some multiplication. So let's do 3 times 4 minus 2. Okay, when we talk about PEMDAS, notice that we're going to do all multiplication and division before we do any adding and subtracting. So we have multiplying here and we have subtracting here. So we're going to do the multiplying first. So 3 times 4 is 12. Bring down the minus 2. And then do 12 minus 2, which is going to give you 10, and that's it right there. Let's do another one. Let's do 5. This is a tricky one. 5 plus 2 times 3. This one people generally don't like a lot. All right, now notice you have addition right here and you have subtraction right here. So when we work through this one, we have to make sure and multiply before we add. A lot of people see that 5 and 2 and whoop, they put 7 together. Can't do that. You have to multiply before you add. So the 5 simply just comes down. 3 times 2 is 6, and then you can add them together and you get 11. Let's do another one, kind of similar to that. Let's go 6 minus 2. Actually, let's add 6 plus 2 times 5, and then let's put subtraction at the end. Minus 10. My pencil keeps breaking. That's not going to be good. All right, so 6 plus 2 times 5 minus 10. Now notice, just because the 6 and the 2 is written first doesn't mean you do it. You always do the multiplication first. So 2 times 5 is 10. Bring down everything else. And then move left to right. So we're going to go 6 plus 10 is 16. Bring down a minus 10. And then the 16. And there it is, boxing your answer. Notice, on this one I have 4 steps. I had the original, 2 sub-steps, and then my final answer. Let's do another one. It's got some division in it. So we're going to go, let's do 4 plus 12 divided by 2 minus 10. Will that work out? Nope, I think I need to make that number a little smaller. There it is. All right, so here it is. We have addition, we have division, we have subtraction. Division we're going to do first. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Everything else I didn't use, you bring down. So there's the minus 5. There's the plus and there's the 4. Move left to right, so 6 plus 4 is 10 minus 5, and bring down to 5, and there it is. So original step, 2 sub-steps, and a final answer. Let's add in some parentheses and see how that works out. So if I add in some parentheses, I'm going to get something that might look like this. Let's go 6 plus 2 plus 6 plus 2, the quantity 6 plus 2 minus 5. Let's try that out. So this is a minus sign right here. Maybe it might look like a plus sign. So we're going to do everything inside the parentheses first. So 6 times 2 is 8. Leave the parentheses on. And then we're going to do 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's do another one. Let's go 3 plus 4 times 5. Now, on this one, this was a bracket. I'm sorry, this was a parenthesis, and this is a bracket. They mean the same thing. As a matter of fact, I could take this problem here, and I could replace that bracket with a parenthesis, and it'll have the same meaning. And to be honest with you, if you want to do that on yours, I have no problem with that at all. It's not an issue for me. So here it is. We're going to do everything inside the parentheses first. So we're going to do the 4 times the 5. So there's 3 plus 4 times 5 is 20. And then add them together. There's 23. Let's do about 2 more, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's do something like, let's do 8 plus 2 times 3. As a matter of fact, this one will be harder than probably anything you'll find on the homework. Plus, let's do a brace 4 minus 2. Oops, you need to be able to see that. There it is. So 8 plus 2 times 3 plus the bracket 4 minus 2. All right, and so here it is. We're going to do everything inside the parentheses first. So we have 2 here on this one, and then we have when I say anything inside the parentheses, I also am referring to a bracket and a brace, since they behave the same way. So I have to do the 4 minus 2 on this one. Now there's nothing to do inside this one, so essentially it's done. All I'm going to do is bring it down. So I'm going to do it 8 plus 2 times 3 plus, and there's the 2. Okay, then I go through. Once I've simplified inside and I've worked it down where I can't do anything else, there's only one number inside there, then I go through and I look for all the multiplication and division. And I've got a multiplication right here, so I'm going to bring everything else down. So I'll bring the 8 down, the plus down, that's 6, and there's the 2. Now really, to be technical, you really don't need the braces there. My braces are looking pretty sad there, but I think you know what they mean. And then we're going to add left to right. So 8 plus 6 is going to be 14 plus the 2, and really we don't need it that anymore. And then there's the 16. So that one had 3 subsets. The first step, 3 subsets, and then the last one. So let's do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's do 5 plus 2 times a quantity, 7 minus 2. Okay, we're going to stay inside the parentheses first. So we'll do 7 minus 2 first. Bring everything down as it's written. We have addition and we have multiplication. So I have to do multiplication there. So 5 and the plus come down. There's your 10. 5 times 2 is 10. And then 5 plus 10 is going to be 15. And that's it. That should get you a good start on this next lesson. And while I'm thinking about it, I do have one other thing I want to show you. You're going to be asked to be able to analyze a given problem and look for its mistake and then correct it. For example, I've got a problem down. This is the original. This is the first. This is the substep, and then here's the answer. There's one mistake in this problem, and you're going to be asked to find that mistake and correct the problem from there. So for example, there's no mistake in the original. So what we're going to do is we're just going to simply rewrite the original. And then I'm looking for mistakes. Now, look at what they did. They did 3 plus 6. 3 plus 6 gives you 9. Notice, now 3.6 is 9. So let's not get that wrong. But we don't add before we multiply. Remember, we always multiply before we add. So their mistake on this was, I'll put a line through it. The mistake was multiply before you add. Okay, so the mistake was adding before they multiply. Really, you should multiply before you add. So I'll do the problem then correct. So I'll multiply first. So 3 plus 30. because 6 times 5 is 30, and then you get 33. And there it is. So you're going to be asked to do that throughout the year. There's lesson number 1.